guys, this is Elena from We Learn to Share. In this video, we're going to talk about Enlightenment ideals and enlightened despotism. In this video, this will not be particularly just about philosophy because today I'm going to talk about the political implication of the philosophy. So for a better word, political philosophy, that's what I'm going to talk about today. So let's begin. Okay, so this is a table of contents. First, we'll explore the Enlightenment, and then next, the Enlightenment philosophy and the enlightened despots from Prussia, Austria, and Russia. Then we'll discuss two critical thinking questions. First, starting with the Enlightenment. I guess all of you guys will have at least once heard about Enlightenment, right? It is like being enlightened. So the philosopher previously living inside a dark, dark cave, blinded by his love for God, now opening his eyes and guided by a stream of light called reason outside the cave. So the center and the language of Enlightenment was France, and that was possible by something called salons. Salon is like a house party where people gather around and have a sociable meal and talk, most like a debate and exchange ideas and opinions. The prominent figures were Maria de Joffrin and then Julia de Lespinasse and Claudine de Teclin. The three prominent figures were the three women over here who are all French women and very famous, salon holders. And then the Enlightenment continued to support scientific advances, which first was prompted decades ago from the scientific revolution. And there were also ideologies like empiricism and scientific philosophy like deism formed within the Enlightenment. Deism held that there was a God who created the earth, but the God had left the earth to operate by natural law. And this is in line with Baruch Spinoza's ethical vision of unfolding out of a monistic metaphysics in which identify both God and nature in the universe. Before we delve into the deeper part of Enlightenment philosophies, let's just have a quick taste of what the overall flavor of philosophies will be encountered in our salon today and in this video. So philosophy was everything about reason. They questioned traditional forms of governing like monarchy and social hierarchies, which encapsulated and stimulated massive political changes, including the American Revolutions, French Revolution, Haitian Revolution, and so on. So humans should only rely on reason, and their natural laws and rights to happiness should be secured by the government. These ideals prompted rational inquiry into nature, especially the traditionally interpreted belief of politics and society. And today, I'll be focusing more on the political implications, as I've told you in the intro, of Enlightenment ideals of philosophers like John Locke, Rousseau, Baron de Montesquieu, and Thomas Hobbes. So first, starting with John Locke. He argued that the government's power should be dependent on the consent of the governed. He speaks for freedom of religion and opinions and private property, and also as one of the supporters of the notions called as the social contract. So social contract is the idea that there are mutual obligations owed to each other by the government and the citizens. So the government exists to protect and secure the rights and happiness of their citizens, and the citizens should in turn fulfill their duties like paying taxes to the government. And the cornerstones of the Enlightenment thought, like a secular government, popular sovereignty, and natural rights, owns a lot to John Locke. Locke's idea significantly influenced the American Revolution and the founding fathers who coined the term Age of Reason, namely Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, and others who led the American Revolution and wrote the U.S. Constitution. Revolution documents on both sides of the Atlantic, including Declaration of Independence, France's Declaration of Rights of Men and the Citizens, and Simon Bolivar's Jamaica Letter, belong squarely within the Enlightenment tradition. Next, let's delve into the philosophy of Rousseau. So Rousseau felt more strongly than any of his fellow thinkers that the ordinary people deserved political power, as expressed in his book The Social Contract in 1762. His ideas were a forceful continuation of Locke's ideas on the subject. His distrust of creation and its institutions led him to criticize rigid education practices and the strict discipline of children. In his treatise Emile, or the Treatise on Education, he argued that the children have to be understood and considered as individuals and that they need caring from their parents and their teachers. He and other Enlightenment critics helped to change the education and the child-rearing practices of 18th century Europe. Next, let's explore the philosophy of Charles de Montesquieu, who proposed the separation of powers of the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government to avoid despotism or tyranny in his book The Spirit of Laws in 1748. He argued that the government's branches and their functions should be divided among various groups or individuals or checks and balances so that the power of others could be checked and balanced. His theory served as a blueprint for the government structure outlined in the U.S. Constitution. Next, let's explore the philosophy of Thomas Hobbes. So he also upheld the notion of social contracts, only that he viewed the natural state of human differently from Locke as chaotic and full of malice. And he also accused humans of their brutal nature in civil war, calling the government to intervene and ease the tensions and the rampant chaos within the natural states of people. Hobbes asserted that the people agreed among to lay down their natural rights of equality and freedom and give absolute power to a sovereign. The sovereign created by the people could either be a person or a group, like a government. Now let's move on to the following topic, enlightened despotism, or namely the nice dictators. But before we go on any further, I would like to clarify the terms we have over here now. So what despot means is the term despot typically carries a negative connotation because it describes a ruler who holds absolute power in their country and is not bound by many laws and restrictions when ruling. So rulers with all this power rarely act for the good of their country and usually act in their fulfillment or pursuit of their own self-interests. So some notable examples of the despots would be like Adolf Hitler, Mao Zedong from China, and Joseph Stalin from Russia. However, the despots we will explore today in this video are very, very different from these type of despots because they were absolute rulers, yes, but they began to care about the lives of their people, of their subjects, as they were more and more influenced by philosophers like John Locke and Montesquieu, whom we've talked about just before. So the enlightened despot was a ruler who aimed for the advancement of society by fostering education, aiding the economy, and prompting social justice. So they're basically like very nice dictators. Since most of the philosophers and certainly most of the Europe's monarchs believed that the mass or like the general public of the people were incapable of self-government, enlightened despots stayed within their power as a monarch while prompting the good of their people. So they did not like fundamentally change the root or like the structure of their power suddenly to democracy, or rather they just stayed in power as a monarch, different from other rulers because they now care about the people and now care for the good of the people. And in Prussia and in Russia, with its ruling behind that of the West Enlightenment despotism, it helped them to persist and prosper to an extent, and such rule in Austria also helped it slow its decline, whose monarch still had the title of the Holy Roman Empire. And in Western Europe, enlightened despotism manifested itself in countries like Sweden, Spain, and Portugal, but shone most brilliantly in the eastern part. So let's first explore our kind dictator named Frederick the Great from Prussia. So Prussia was actually a historically prominent German state that originated in 1525 with a Dutch centered on region of Prussia on the southeast coast of the Baltic Sea. So Frederick the Great is famous for his words, and if you read this, he says that I am the first servant of the state. Can you just imagine that? Like a absolute monarch who like a despot, a tyranny, like a monarch, like a dictator saying that, oh my gosh, I am the first servant of the state. I will serve you citizens. Is that even imaginable looking back from all the bloody, all the like very selfish dictators, despots we've met before the Enlightenment? No. So, Frederick the Great was not only a military genius who made Prussia a major power in Europe, but also an educated and domestic reformer who improved education, extended religious toleration, made codified laws, fostered industry to make new jobs, and welcomed immigration from other countries. Frederick reformed the Prussian judicial system and abolished torture and capital punishment as a means of like punishment. And he also expanded the network of public schools in order to increase enrollment and allocated greater funding to infrastructure, which made it easier for students and adults or to transfer themselves and goods. He also allowed more individual freedom by encouraging religious toleration between Protestants and the German Catholics and granting some freedom of the religion. But despite these advancements, wars did not cease during this period. In one conflict, Prussia fought for 2 years to take the region of Silesia away from Austria ruler Mary Theresa. And there is also a war of Austrian succession. So this is when the Charles VI of Austria under Prussia didn't have a son but only a daughter, and so he issued the pragmatic sanction that said that woman can also be a queen of Austria so that his daughter could become the next leader of Austria. But Prussia didn't accept this. Because Frederick the Great wanted to be the king of both Austria and Prussia. So there came the War of Austrian Succession from 1740 to 1748, in which Prussia and Austria fought because Frederick wanted to be the king of both Prussia and Austria, but Maria, which is the daughter of Charles VI, wanted to be the queen of Austria by the pragmatic sanction that his father issued. And at the end, finally, Maria so Austria won, and And then Maria became the Queen of Austria. And surprisingly, Maria Theresa is one of the enlightened despots I'll be elaborating upon today. So she centralized the monarchy, reformed abuse of the serfs, so she was anti-serfdom, and then she opened up the economy, so she limited guilds. She also appointed able ministers, like made public schools to improve education and reform the army. And most importantly, during her reign, Vienna became the cultural center of German-speaking world, and made arts, culture, and music within there, so enabled musicians like Mozart and Beethoven and Haydn to fruitfully nourish and express their musical talents. Next, let's look at another enlightened despot, Catherine the Great from Russia. So she continued the expansionist and westernization policies of Peter the Great, which was her former ruler, who was the former ruler of Russia. So Peter the Great was a ruler who opened the Western influence after his trip to Western Europe. So he appreciated Western art and like Western technology, their culture. And when he returned to Russia, he took some Western craftsmen with him, and he also required boyars in Russia to shave their beards and wear like Western clothing, and like brought ballets from France to Russia, and so on. So Catherine the Great, who was his successor, also followed these kind of like attitudes toward westernization, opening up the economy, like becoming more to Western influence. And so she encouraged Western art and architecture. She also granted civil rights to Jews and was a good friend Diderot and Voltaire, who were Enlightenment thinkers or philosophers or writers. But Peter the Great, just like Peter the Great did, she did not take up democratic values like changing their governmental structure to democracy so much as she maintained the power of monarch, but at least she took upon some Enlightenment ideals like kind of a lip service, as seen in the incidents in which she created a commission that reviewed all Russian laws, and so that the justice system, the Russian justice system, could be more in line with that of Western Europe. Okay, so next, this is almost the end of the video, but I just wanted to give 2 critical thinking questions, and then you viewers can maybe think about it and then like kind of write your opinions or have a mini debates in the comments below. So the first question could be, was the Enlightenment successful? So this is kind of a broad question. I mean, this could be kind of a biased question because most of the people think that Enlightenment, yes, they succeeded. Like there were many fruitful like birth of like very like rational ideas, rational ideologies, and like kind of that supported also like scientific developments, technologies, and so on. But there were also kind of the dark sides of Enlightenment, and also there could be some unsuccessful incidents in which Enlightenment ideals were failed to be actually taken into practice in the reality. Because there were several successful revolutions that fought for democracy and for these kind of like rights of the people, like American Revolution, yes, or Haiti Revolution, yes. But there are also revolutions like the French Revolution or like some revolutions in the Latin American region which actually failed to carry upon or maintain these kind of Enlightenment ideals, which actually prompted the revolutions from the get-go. So the first question, was Enlightenment successful? The second question, in what ways were the enlightened despots less than or just like true reformers, right? Like I have elaborated constantly from the first beginning, like these enlightened despots, all of them were very kind dictators, right? Like they did a lot of reforms, they cared about the people, they wanted to promote the well-being and the goodness of the people. However, they did not like fundamentally change their way of governing people or consolidating their power or actually deploying or exploiting their power over the people, because they were still a dictator, they were still a despot, right? So in what ways do you think that the enlightened despots has been just like, or maybe just less than the true reformers from world history? So if you have any ideas or any opinions regarding these 2 questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. And also, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to our channel if you want more videos. So this will be the end of the video. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.